NATO and Zara were two young lovers, bubbling with affection with each other. They both came from poor backgrounds. They met at the market where both of them struggled to make ends meet. NATO worked as a load carrier and helped people carry their loads. For a fee, he left his village to another town. After discovering that there was nothing left for him in the village, he was able to save some money after carrying loads on his head for a while and bought himself a wheelbarrow to ease his stress a little bit. At night, he would sleep in people's shop after they have locked up. He couldn't afford to rent a room at that time. Zara, on the other hand, was a young, hard-working lady who was brought to the city by her aunt. Her parents were poor and only survived on their small farmland. They had to arrange for Zara to go to the city when it became obvious that there was nothing in store for her. In the village, Zara's aunt sells at the market, and Zara helped her also to attend to customers and do other menial jobs. NATO usually comes to the shop to buy food from Auntie Chizi's shop, and he and Zara soon became friends. Zara was a beautiful girl, and Auntie Chizi had other plans for her. The closeness between Zara and the wheelbarrow pusher, NATO, she said one day, "I am warning you, Zara, I don't need to remind you of your predicament. I don't need to remind you where you came from. It will be shame for you to leave the village only for you to come here and mingle with that boy who is poverty personified. I don't want to see him with you again. If he comes here, then attend to him like a normal customer." Zara nodded at her aunt, but deep down, she knew she would not stop being close with NATO. She only became more careful and kept her relationship with NATO hidden from her aunt. She felt a form of natural connection with NATO, and nobody understood it better than she did. Zara and NATO were free and vocal about their feelings for each other and were lost in their emotional careless that they didn't even care about any other things when they were together. They just cared about their own happiness. Zara, however, felt threatened by a young girl named Kaima. Kaima helped their mother to sell bread at the market, and she has been unusually close to NATO. Zara had complained about it to NATO, about the way he talked and laughed with Kaima, but NATO denied having a relationship with Kaima and said that little girl just liked to talk to him. That's all. Zara lived with her aunts and her other two girls, who also helped Auntie Chizzy to sell food at the market. Everything was going on well until Auntie Chizzy's customer started to show interest in Zara. Their men not only wanted to eat food, they also wanted to have a taste of Zara. Auntie Chizzy declined at first, but as they started to offer her large sum of money in exchange for a night with Zara, Auntie Chizzy could no longer refuse and informed her about the extra work she would be doing for this men. Zara begged and told her aunt that she would not want to sell her body, but her aunt forced her and even threatened to throw her out of the house if she refused to accept the offer. Auntie Chizzy then went on to collect money from those men and promised to send Zara over to them. That evening, after they had finished selling food at the market, Auntie Chizzy gave Zara a new gown and told her to bathe and put it on. Go to one of their customers' house to deliver the food to him. But she told Zara to be polite and do whatever the man asked her to do. Zara nodded and left, but she was suspicious of her auntie's intention because she had never been sent to deliver food at any customer's house before. She decided to play safe and called Neto, who followed her to the house. Neto agreed and waited for Zara outside the gate while she entered the house. As soon as the man saw Zara, he could no longer hide the lust in his eyes. He collected the food from Zara and told her to go into the bedroom with him. Zara refused and told him quickly, empty the food flasks as her auntie instructed her to return with it. The man laughed and went closer to sit near Zara. Little angel, the food will be eaten by us after we've been ourselves, after we had our fun, he said, while stroking Zara's face. Zara got irritated and slapped the hands away from her face. She told the man, sir, I don't know what you mean by that, but I want to assume that you are not hungry and you don't want to eat now. I will have to go and come back later for the plate. Zara stood up, but was stopped by the man. Where do you think you are going to? Did your aunt not tell you what to do when you came here? I had already paid her to have the whole night with you, so you better cooperate with me or you have to have it the hard way. Zara was shocked. The truth dawned on her Auntie Chizzy has sold her to sleep with this man. She begged the man, please sir, please, I am just a little girl. I have not done it before. Please don't do this. But the man started to lose his patience. He did not bargain for this delay at all and wasted no time in grabbing Zara and pushed her down to the couch. Zara saw that there was no way of escaping, so she screamed out for help. The man tried to cover her mouth, but she struggled and screamed even longer. NATO, who was standing at the gate, heard Zara scream, quickly rushed to the house. On seeing the man on top of Zara, he looked around and saw a wooden stool. Out of impulse, he picked up the stool and hit it on the man's back. The man rolled away in pain, and Zara and NATO quickly stood up and ran out of the house. Zara was so frightened and shocked when she found that hard to believe that her aunt could do such a thing to her. The incident kept replaying on her head. As she and NATO walked down the road that night, she waited for some time to calm down before returning to Auntie Chizzy's house. But as she got back home, Auntie Chizzy was already waiting for her at the door. Fuming angrily at the man, he called to report her about how Zara and NATO almost killed him, and he angrily asked for the refund. Auntie Chizzy had to apologize and quickly send the money back to him. As soon as she saw NATO, she shouted at her, "Where do you think you are going to? Where do you even think you are even coming from?" Zara startled and stammered, I'm coming back from the man's place." Auntie Chizzy interrupted her. "The man you almost killed. Who was that young man that came into the house?" Zara was scared this time, but she answered, "It was NATO." Auntie Chizzy lost it immediately. "NATO again? Have I not warned you not to have anything to do with that young man? Have I not warned you to stay away from that man? You prefer to give your body to that poor boy for free, but you don't want to do the same for a man who is willing to pay you. Well, since you love NATO so much, you will have to go and start living with him." Auntie Chizzy then went into the house and brought out all of Zara's belongings. She threw the bags at Zara, warning her never to return to the house again. Zara fell on her knees, crying and begging, "Auntie, please, he tried to rape me. Please, don't send me away. I don't have anywhere to go to." But Auntie Zara refused to listen to her. She ignored her and locked her door against Zara. Zara had no choice than to go and meet NATO. That night, NATO was very angry and couldn't stop expressing his contempt for Auntie Chizzy. "That your aunt is a very wicked woman, being happy if you have been raped, right? By that man. She could not even wait for tomorrow morning. She had to throw you out this night. She's mean and evil." Thank God she did not succeed with her evil plans. Zara had to sleep at one of the lock shops with NATO, but NATO did not sleep that night because he had to stay awake and watch over Zara. The next morning, Zara told NATO that she has saved up some money and that they should look for a room to rent. NATO agreed, but it wasn't safe for Zara to be sleeping outside. And also, he has already saved up some money and they joined the money together and were able to rent a small room to live. They were sleeping on the floor until they saved money to buy a tiny mattress. Since Zara had no job again, she decided to approach people to offer help to wash their clothes and clean their houses for a little price. NATO was still carrying loads for people with his wheelbarrow and they both worked very hard to make money. But it was not yielding better results as they were always in lack, coupled with the fact that they had their own families to also send money back to. Once in a while, NATO had a sick mother with her medication just keep finishing all the money. NATO sent money back. They continued for a long time until the worst happened. NATO was at the market and a call from his sister entered. Their mother had fainted and had been rushed to the hospital. NATO had to quickly take the night bus back to the village. When he got to the hospital, the doctor told him that the mother had a major kidney failure and needed a transplant as quick as possible. Apparently, all this while she has been sick, she has been drinking herbal medicine without prescription and that damaged her kidney. NATO was shocked. He was speechless and he did not know what to do, where to even begin. He begged the doctor to treat the mother while he ran around to raise money. The doctor informed him that the surgery would cost 2.5 million naira and he had to hurry up so that she does not get worse. NATO had to return to the city, but as he was in the bus, his head was in a state of chaos. He tried to think of how to get the money, but nothing seems to be entering his thoughts. He did not even know how to raise 50,000 naira talk more of 2.5 million naira. When he got home, he told Zara about his predicament. She was really sorry for him. She also was helpless to the situation as she had no money to give. That night, while NATO was sleeping, Zara stayed awake thinking and later woke NATO up as she had something to discuss with him. It is about your mother's sickness. I have thought about it and I don't think we'll be able to raise even half of that amount. We cannot just hold our hands and watch your mother die. Desperate situation calls for desperate action. The thing I'm about to tell you might sound extreme, but I don't know of any better choice. Nesto listened curiously. As Zara spoke, "What is it?" he asked. "In one of the houses where I go to clean and wash for them, I once overheard a woman telling a friend about a great spiritualist who makes people rich. I have not thought about it until now. I would like us to go and meet this man. Who knows, he might be successful." NATO was shocked as he looked at Zara. "Spiritualist? Do you mean an occultic group like Ritual Money? Abomination! What if he asks us to kill somebody? I do not want to soil my hands with blood." "No, he won't ask us. Let's just go and see him." "Or do you want to watch and see how your mother is going to die because you do not have any money to pay for the surgery? Please think about this and let us act fast." NATO was speechless as he tried to process all Zara had said. The next morning, they both went out for their jobs. Later that day, the doctor called NATO to inform him that his mother was not responding to treatment and that if the surgery was not done in 1 week, she would die. NATO was shocked and afraid. He was so confused. He didn't know what to say. He was losing his mother and there was no money at hand. When he got home that night, he told Zara he was ready to go. Zara could still remember the address of the spiritualist, and so she took NATO there. That night when they got there, they told the spiritualist what they wanted. The man looked at them and said, "I can give you world's endless wealth, but you have to make a sacrifice." NATO and Zara looked at each other shocked, and NATO tried to react angrily, but Zara held him down, and instead she asked the spiritualist, "Please tell us, what type of sacrifice?" The man pointed at a silver wand at them and said, "You must sacrifice your womb to this altar. That will open up the source of wealth for you. You will never be able to have children again, but your wealth will be endless, everly flowing." Zara was shocked at what she just heard. What the man just said, her womb, she will not have any other children. What was the essence of having money, all this wealth in the world, without children to enjoy it? Neto held onto her as they walked back home. That night, they were both silent. Neto was the only son of his family. This would mean that his father's lineage will end up with him. And he did not even have the courage to convince Zara to do what the spiritualist had said. But as he thought of his mother, who was dying at the hospital, his heart broke. He wished there was another way to get the money. Zara was still trying to reconcile with reality. She thought about the implication of sacrificing her womb, and she then realized that everything boiled down to her. 2 days later, Zara called NATO and asked him, "If I sacrifice my womb, will you still marry me? Will you stay with me if I cannot give you children?" NATO looked at Zara sadly and told her, "Zara, you know you already mean the world to me. You have been my backbone and I will stand by you no matter what." Zara then told him, "I will do it. Let's go and do it now." So they went to the spiritualist place and the ritual was performed. NATO was able to pay for the mother's surgery and was well again. NATO and Zara got married and their wealth kept pouring in. They had a lot of businesses and life was going on well for them. They had built houses for their parents in the villages. However, 3 years later, they have not been able to have a child. NATO and Zara understood why they were not able to have a child, but their families did not, especially NATO's mother, who has not been patient enough and was not going back to sit and watch while her husband's lineage closed. She stormed into their house one evening unexpectedly. Zara opened the door for her and welcomed her, but she shouted at Zara, "What are you doing in this house? I am tired of seeing your face. I need my grandchildren to welcome me whenever I visit. Why can't you just give my son children, even if it's just one? Or is there something we do not know? Have you eaten all your children?" Zara was shocked to hear her mother-in-law's accusation. Mama, we are trying. God will give us children at the right time. But her mother-in-law got even more angry at her response. Why will you say that? Until now, my son has started growing gray hair. Woman, if you are not able to give my son a child, then shift, let me bring another young fertile girl to give children to him, she said and walked inside the house, leaving Zara standing and looking speechless and emotionless. Zara could not control the tears pouring down from her cheek as she thought of all her mother-in-law said to her. When NATO returned home that evening, he was surprised to see Zara crying. But when she told him what his mother said to her, he was very angry. He rushed to confront the mother. Why will you accuse my wife of eating her own child? Have I come to complain to you about our situation before, Mama? You are doing too much. His mother stood up and shouted at him, NATO, are you in your right senses? Oh, I can see you have been bewitched by that girl too. Now listen to me and listen carefully. I will not sit back and watch while she destroys you. If she cannot give you a child, then another woman can. NATO frowned at his mother. Mother, why will you say such a thing? And angrily gave the mother a final warning not to interfere in his marriage again. Early the next morning, his mother left to the village, and Zara was relieved that she could now finally enjoy peace of mind. However, she was not happy that she would not be able to conceive her own children. For her husband, she knew that the only way for them to have children was baby adoption, and so she told NATO about it. But NATO refused, telling her that he should stop disturbing herself and he did not want to raise another man's child. Zara seems to enjoy some peace until NATO's sister came to visit them, but this time she came with a big boss and it was obvious that she would be staying for a long time. Zara was surprised to see her and asked her, Amara, you did not inform us that you would be visiting. Amara looked at Zara, hissed and asked her, so I have to take permission from you before I can come and see my brother's house? Wonders they say shall never end. He walked into the house and sat on the couch. Zara was sad. She never knew that NATO's sister had come with war, but she was not ready to fight with anybody. She just wanted to live peacefully with her husband. She walked past Amara and went to lock herself inside the room until her husband came back. Amara continued staying with them, and whenever NATO went out, she would insult the living daylight out of Zara. Amara would not allow Zara to enjoy a single moment of rest at all and would always refer to Zara as a man who would not have children. Zara was, however, used to her insults and she drew strength from the fact that her husband supported her in their childlessness. She was worried that NATO had refused them to adopt a child. Unknown to Zara, even though NATO seems to understand their predicament, he knew he needed to have a child somehow, and he started to keep girlfriends around him with the hope of getting one of his girlfriends pregnant. It was not long before Zara started to hear her husband's immoral lifestyle, but whenever she confronted NATO, he would deny it straight away. Zara chose to believe him until one day she had gone to the salon to make her hair when a young girl much younger than she was walked up to her and mocked her. Oh, Her Excellency, I finally get to meet you. I cannot understand why your husband cannot stay away from me. You cannot even give him a child anyway. I will help you out to do your jobs. I will help you give your husband a child and make him happy. But I must warn you, I cannot share my man. When I get pregnant for him, you are moving out and I am moving in. The girl laughed and walked away. Zara was so ashamed that she had to leave the salon without even making her hair. When she got home, she cried her heart out that Neto was doing such a thing behind her back. She thought he stood with her, but obviously she stood alone and she was just being deceived by Neto. When Neto came back home that night, she confronted him. This time he could not deny it. See, Zara, I have tried to keep this away from you so that I don't hear anything, but since you have found out, then there is no need to hide it anymore. I am the only child of my father. I cannot afford to have children. I hope you understand. Maybe we will still get married, but I just need to have a child of my own. Zara could not believe her ears. NATO, but you said you were okay with us not having children. You said you would stand by me. What happened now? NATO quickly corrected her. Point of correction, I never said I was okay without having children. I only said I would support you. And that is what I have been doing all along already. I have not abandoned you nor sent you away. So don't make a big deal out of this issue, please. It will be selfish of you not to want me to have children, since the problem is not with me. Allow me to sleep with anyone I please to sleep with. I am very tired. Please. Zara stood there, frozen to her reality, stared in her face. I am the one with the problem. It is me. I cannot have children. What have I done to myself? She cried and cried herself to sleep. From that day onward, NATO did not hide his extramarital affairs again. He would publicly go about with the girls and even spend the night with them. Zara soon became used to the attitude she saw. She consoled herself with the fact that NATO respected her enough not to bring any of the girls into the house. However, for months, NATO continued to sleep with different girls without being able to get any of them pregnant. Until one day, one of them became pregnant. NATO was beyond happy that he will soon become a father, and he offered to rent a house for the lady, but she refused, saying that she wanted to move into his house, that she would love for his child to be born and raised in her father's house. NATO would do anything as long as this child was involved, and so he agreed to bring her into the house. He did not even need to inform Zara about it. After all, it was his house. And so one bright morning, NATO, who had not slept at home the previous night, came home with a young lady. Zara was shocked when she opened the door to see her husband with a young lady at the door with a big luggage. She was also shocked that the lady was the same Kaima who sold bread for her mother at the market years ago, the same Kaima she warned NATO about, but he denied it. Here, Zara was standing there and looking confused and shocked. When NATO took Kaima into the house, Zara quickly recovered from her shock and went into the room to ask NATO what was going on. I don't need to introduce her to you because you already know her. Please, I beg you, help me look after her while she's carrying my baby. And I'm sure you know how important this child is to me. Stood still, dumbfounded. Kaima pregnant for her husband. How? She pointed at Kaima angrily. You are pregnant for my husband. So you have been sleeping with my husband. After all these years, you still found your way into my husband. What did I ever do to you? I knew you had always had eyes for NATO, but I never knew that it would get to this extent. You want to come and reap where you did not sow. I will never allow this to happen. Get up and leave my house now, Zara shouted at Kaima. NATO had to quickly shun Zara and take Kaima into the room. Later came to meet Zara. Zara, you need to behave yourself. Don't make things difficult for yourself. You should be very grateful that I am not even sending you out of this house. Just cooperate with Kaima and be grateful for her for helping you do what you cannot do. Zara felt like she was dreaming and laughed at NATO. NATO, you are a joker. Have you forgotten that I cannot have children because of you? And yet, you stand there to utter those shameless words to me. NATO was getting pissed off at this time. Zara, you are pushing me to the wall. Whatever happened had happened long ago. Why should I keep punishing myself when I can have children? Zara then asked him, why Kaima? If it was any other woman, I would understand, but why her? Neto told her to deal with it and left. Zara was livid. She would never accept Kaima, not to talk of living under the same roof with her. She knew she had to get rid of her, and she thought of killing herself. But on a second thought, she realized that if she had killed Kaima, Neto would still move on with another woman. Since he was an unrepentant ingrate, it then dawned to her that she needed to end everything once and for all. I have accepted all the blame all these years. Nobody knew about the sacrifice I have made. I have been scorned for being barren just because I loved and trusted a man too much. Neto, you and I are in this together, she said to herself. We started this together and we must end it together, Zara thought to herself. As her eyes and heart were filled with venom, later that evening, Neto came to meet Zara to tell her to pack her things out of the master's room as Kaima would be moving in the next morning. Zara did not say anything. Rather, she had a wicked smile on her face. That night before she slept, Zara brought his tool and climbed up to the wardrobe. She brought down a small wooden box, opened it, and took a small calabash from it. As she held the calabash in her hand, she smiled wickedly. She started to remember how she and Neto had met and hustled to make ends meet, how her aunt had sent her out of the house, how they went to rent a small room, and his mother's sickness pushed them into doing ritual money. Everything was beautiful before the money came in. She started to cry as she turned the calabash upside down. The black content in it, it fell to the ground. NATO, it is over. We will meet again, my love, she said, and went to sleep. The next morning, Kaima woke up tired, tried to wake NATO, but he will not. She went to the master's bedroom to inform Zara, but to her shock, Zara was still lying there, lifeless on the bed. Filled with fear and shock, Kaima took her bag and ran away. Neto's sister Amara came by later the morning to visit them. She was shocked to see both her brother and his wife lying helpless on their beds. She quickly went to get help, but it was too late. They were already dead. Neto's mother and sister could not give up. They went and invited a pastor. The pastor then revealed to them that it was too late, that they had already sold their souls to the devil, who had come to take them. He explained to them what Neto and Zara did, how both of them would not be able to bear any children, whether together or with different partners. The calabash that Zara had put its content away was the calabash that held their life. They had been warned to not let its content touch the ground. If not, they would both die. Apparently, Zara decided to end it out of anger and a thirst for revenge. Neto's mother and sister were shocked to their knowledge. They regretted pressuring Zara, now knowing the sacrifice she made for them. They had to bury the couple and return to the village. They abandoned the house because it was an evil territory filled with sad memories. The story of Neto and Zara soon spread out, and anyone who heard of it vowed never to allow the drive for money lead them into dining with the devil. The end.